Hello, investors. Thank you for joining me today. So I want to run you guys through a hypothetical to get us right into it. So imagine it's mid 2020, lockdown is slowly starting to ease up. You've been cooped up at your house for the past 3 months, and you finally want to go do something active, but not take your dog out for the sixth time in a row kind of deal. So you look online, you see your local Planet Fitness that you have a membership to is open again. So you're like, great, you're pumped, ready to go. You head down there, you get checked in, ready to lift some big weight, and that's the first thing you see. Big, sweaty old gym equipment. Probably not what you want to see, especially at the height of the pandemic, right? So now you either got to clean whatever's on that bench yourself, you got to find an attendant, or use another piece of equipment that you probably didn't want to in the first place. But what if I told you that I had a product for you that can make all of this obsolete? Hi, I'm Spencer Thornley, and I am the president of Squeaky Clean Barbell. And my company is currently trying to curb the cleanliness inefficiencies plaguing the commercial gym industry in this pandemic era. Now, being an avid gym goer myself, I've had a membership for over several years, and I've seen the state of commercial gyms both before the pandemic, during lockdown period, and post-pandemic to kind of today, where they're enforcing these clean mandates in order to curb the COVID-19 spreads. So with that, we're going to kind of dive deeper into the problem that's going on right now. We're going to look at my product and the benefits of it. And then we're going to look at the industry and the lucrative returns that are pressing this industry right now that you're really going to want to get into. So with that, let's dive deeper into the problem. So my problem, you have to look at it in two parts. And the first part is COVID-19 transmission. So potential disease transmission, it's not a new thing for commercial gyms. And that's been reiterated in these bacterial studies like the one I provided you. And all of this is subject because of surface area touch. So these environments that we get on our hands and then we touch equipment like barbells and dumbbells and water fountains and whatnot gets onto other people's hands and then causes issues. Now, the reason why this wasn't such a big deal up until COVID is because, first of all, you can't really assess the risk of a disease if it's like a bacteria, especially where it can be so subject to one area. But because there's not a lot of reporting, because if it's just one area, it's obviously not a big issue. It could just be that one gym. So with COVID, there's two things that come into factor. First, it's respiratory exertion. So it's in that air environment that falls in the same category. Basically, when you breathe or you cough, those droplets get onto the equipment and then it spreads in the same surface area that all the bacteria that we just described does. And then we also see public health reportings and PCR testing development kind of show that these commercial gyms are becoming hotspots because of just the nature of how they operate. So now we find our first kind of minimal problem to these commercial gym owners and that they have to find ways to try and curb this. Well, what do? They follow the CDC like most other employers did, and they followed these three kinds that were recommended to them. More frequent sanitation of high traffic equipment, providing single-use disinfecting wipes to your patrons so they can do it themselves. Even alternative methods that are becoming revolutionary, like ultraviolet C and electrostatic spray machines, are an option. But these kind of ones you can only do when you really get people out of the way and you can like clean a room without having any interference because of just the scientific basis of it. We won't go into it, but you can't do it consistently. And so we have to question, are these really actually that effective? I mean, how often are your employees going to be really wiping down each equipment? They can't do it. They've got other stuff to do at other times. They can't do it all the time. You're trusting your patrons. Are they actually going to use the disposable wipes? I mean, I've seen football players from high school that come into my gym, like 10 of them in these big groups, and they'll use a bench, like 6 sets of dumbbells and a pull-up bar, and they'll use it for 5 minutes and they leave. And I'm like, guys, first of all, there's 10 of you. You can clean it faster than anyone else. And second, you're going to be the reason why we're still stuck in this mess down the line. So we have to consider these things. And then, like I said, UVC and sprayer machines, most of the time they can't be used until everybody's out of the building. So is it really that effective? And so overall, they all lack this common trait of consistency. And looking at how all this binds together, we're going to segue right into my product, and you will see why my product is going to be the solution to this big problem. So with Squeaky Clean Barbell, we're presenting the OAUSS, which stands for the Overhead Automated Sanitation System. And this is how it works. So basically, you have a patron who will be lifting his weights on whatever piece of equipment or using the equipment. And he gets up, he goes, puts the weight back and gets some water. Well, in that time, you see a motion sensor detects that he's gone from that area. And that sends to the overhead system, kind of like a fire sprayer. Whenever a fire happens, this time it sprays a bed of mist of sanitizer down on the equipment so that within that amount of time that he's left and another patron may come, it's going to be effectively clean. You won't have to worry about it. So what's the big deal behind all of this? Well, our consistency gap is filled. The motion of the sensors detect that it's been used, and since it's automatic, it's just done by itself. You don't have to worry about anything. You don't have to rely on your employees, so they are adding more value because now you can have them do bigger pressing issues. They can go deep clean something. They can help your guests with something that's more important than just basic cleaning. You're adding value. And then a big portion, patrons, they're not subject to clean their own equipment. So not only is it more reliable, but the patrons don't have to do something they probably didn't want to do. You're adding another portion of value to your company. Now, if this discussion of my company is just like, this is ridiculous, I don't want to hear this guy, at least hear me out on the industry portion, because this is going to make you want to invest in this company, in this industry at least. So as you can see here, the health club market, it's valued around 96.7 billion globally. And in 2019, we see this percentage increases from revenue for 8.4%. And then we also see 2.7% for the members. And this was pre-pandemic numbers. So you can see that it's going up. There's people that want to be in this industry, but you have this sort of portion that's holding them back. And as you can see, the top 3 gym chains are obviously large commercial gyms. They're the people that are subject to this issue that we're trying to solve right now. So you can see where we're going to make that direct impact. And then finally, just to all turn this in together, our competition, which is already starting to make sense of this problem, is starting to see revenues like 1.9 billion by 2025. These are the sprayers that I was telling you about that you can't even use until you get in there and clear people out. And that's for a little handheld sprayer that costs $1,500. I mean, imagine with mine being more consistent, you save labor costs, you can do other things. It's just more valuable overall. So in conclusion, there's obviously a clear gap in cleanliness consistency among these commercial gyms. And my company and product are the solution to this gap. The industry, it's clearly promising. It's a big fish industry, and you have the potential for very high returns with a problem that really needs to be solved. And with my company looking to curb these cleanliness inefficiencies that are plaguing it with this and the future, I think that we have a really good, solid business plan ready for you guys to get into. So with all that being said, I want to leave you with this. Maya Angelou once said, if you're going to live, leave a legacy, make a mark on the world that couldn't be erased. So I ask you today, are you going to join me in making your mark by removing them in the gyms?